listening is like one of the highest spiritual exercises somebody can possibly do, is fully listening, like not what I'm going to say back when you're talking, right? And just sitting in front of a customer that I have developed relationships with across the decorative lighting industry at this point and hearing what they have to say.
Welcome to the Business Ownership Podcast, brought to you by Awareness Strategies, helping you navigate the waters between entrepreneurship and ownership. Hey there, peeps. This is Michelle Nedlek, and I'm super glad that you're here with us today because I'm here with my most amazing guest, Greg. Greg, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you so much, Michelle. It's exciting. I'm really excited about the opportunity.
Awesome. So if you could give everybody the highlight of who you are and what you do for business.
Sure. My name is Greg Mazza. I am the president of Innovations Lighting. We're a decorative lighting manufacturer and love leading my team.
Nice. Awesome. So how did you get into that as your thing?
Well, I was a banker on Wall Street. I was in mortgage origination. I was on the executive side of banking. And I just, some pretty extraordinary life events happened to me there. And I wasn't sort of feeling that culture. And I retired from that and moved up to Westchester County. And I met the owner of my organization, which is Innovations Lighting, a decorative lighting manufacturer. And I progressed through the company up to the present where I sit today.
Nice. So my understanding is from your experience through Wall Street. Now, Wall Street's always been very intriguing to me. And not just because of the Wolf of Wall Street, but actually growing up thinking, wondering what it was really like. And I mean, the movie kind of portrayed what was going on in my head. But like, there had to have been an intrigue to Wall Street in the first place. And talk to me about that for a little bit. And then at what point does that intrigue kind of self-implode?
Yeah. So the intrigue obviously is the idea of that geographical location and the power that resides behind it, the money, the prestige of it. And that's what drew me to it in the first place. And I've always had a passion for selling, and I got into mortgage origination and I started to progress up in that banking world. And there's this sort of organic high that you get from the culture around you and the people around you and the prestige that comes with it. And I wrote that for a while and was very, very good at it. And at some point I realized that a lot of it had to do with the transactional sales, and it had to do with, all that really mattered was signing on the dotted line, and in relationships were not really, the key factor in that. And, your belly barometer starts to shift. For some people, they can continue to press on, and there's no shame in that. But my belly barometer started to shift, and I started to get down a path of very sort of egocentric, identity, identifying myself with what I had as opposed to what I was doing in any sort of positive way in the world. Started to lose sleep and started to go down a pretty dark path with that, and just realized that I wasn't cut out for that. I was successful there, but it wasn't fulfilling me, spiritually or, from a character standpoint.
Well, does it ever? I mean, I don't think money ever does. It's intriguing, it's fun, but after a while, it's really hard not to see the layer of it. It's a facade, and it's a beautiful facade, but it really is a facade. And at one point, you kind of creak your eyes through there and go, "Oh, that is so not."
Yeah.
That's not. I don't think that's a life that anybody really wants to live, but we have to kind of see it as the carrot that leads us to the place, but don't eat the carrot. It's like its job is just to get you out of where you are and into something bigger and better. So at what point do you realize that kind of, I'm not supposed to eat that carrot, I'm just supposed to experience this place and then, figure out who I am because I got here. And then how do I bring that to the planet?
Yeah. Well, it was pretty revealing. I had just closed a pretty large commercial deal, and I had gone home, and at this time I had reached all the material success that I had ever even dreamed of at this point in my life. And I had this overwhelming, profound feeling of soul sickness, like it's never going to be enough. right? Like I just had this quick win and I was on to the next, right? I was on to the next. And I'm like, this is just a never ending rabbit hole that I'm going to keep chasing. And of course, I'm compromising time with my family, time with my son, time with people around me. And it's about, it's just about that. And I got to a place where, I started to, get involved with all the extracurricular activities of Wall Street, which was the women and the drugs and the partying. And that took me to a place of pretty extreme darkness where I pretty much forced myself into a position of like, I've got to make a change. And, I've always said this now that I've rebuilt my life on a different footing, in a different area of industry with success. Is money is a lubricant of life. It helps lubricate, but it will never create that resonating joy and happiness inside. That has to come from within. It cannot come from money, cars, things, women, men, whatever it is, and I learned that through that experience. So I don't regret it.
Women are pretty amazing, but that's not what we're talking about. So when it comes to that, that moment in time when you hit that precipice of, I can't do this anymore. A lot of people go, okay, it's either make or break, I gotta leave, or I have to stay. And they tend to see it as one or the other kind of a decision. Is that how you saw it? Or was it kind of, I can ease my way out of this, or I gotta quit cold turkey? There's no, even though your commissions are still coming out, because that's one of the toughest ones that I hear from people is, yeah, but the commissions are 12 months out. The commissions are 18 months out. If I could just kind of get that paycheck, and it's like, well, you still have to do it for 12, 18 months then.
Yeah, it's very hard, right? It's alluring. I mean, there was a point where, in that industry, when you're sort of in selling and sort of as an executive, you pull draws, and my draws were, I think at the time it was about 12 years ago, my draws were like 50,000 a month, and to just walk away from that to go not know. My situation was a little bit different, where I pushed the envelope so far, where I was so sick, spiritually and emotionally and mentally, but I could not let go of that, even though I knew, like my inner voice was saying, get out of this, where I got myself down a pretty dark hole where I pretty much, through those extracurricular activities, lost everything. I lost it all. And I wound up not having a single dime. I wound up not having a single friend. And I moved from Long Island, where I grew up to Westchester to go into recovery because I needed to get my life back together. And I was from a executive vice president of a mortgage bank, living in a homeless shelter, on food stamps with absolutely nothing. And I began to rebuild my life on different principles like humility and gratitude and willingness and open-mindedness. And I rode through that process for a little over a year and a half, where I had nothing. I was living in a halfway house with a bunch of men, and I was working at a golf course that I happen to be a member at today, making $11 an hour. And I was changing garbages and filling divots. And I was attending a 12-step program that I go to. I was rebuilding my life. I had immense amounts of peace, but I never knew where I was going to go. I went from this to now this. And I had this serenity within me, and I just learned to be honest. I learned to be open-minded. I learned to be authentic. I learned to be willing and not closed-minded. And one day, the owner of my current company was a member at the golf course, and he drove by and he said, you work really hard here every single day. He said, call me when you want to, move on from here and you want a real job or a job. And I didn't call him right away. And all the while I'm there, I'm getting offers to go back to the bank with these massive sign-on bonuses. And it's something inside of me is saying, don't do it, Greg. Don't do it. Just stay the line. And here I am making no money, and I'm on food stamps, basically, and I don't know if anybody knows, there's really no sexy way to pay for anything on food stamps, So I hold the line, and I give him a call, and he hired me in innovations in the warehouse. And I started from a very humble beginning there, and I learned the bottom level of this organization, and I moved myself up through the ranks to national sales manager, to executive vice president, to chief operating officer, to now president in 8 years' time, from the time I lost everything. And I've got it all back now. but I have relationships with my family. I have relationships with my son. I have good friends. I have people that I help in recovery. I have a life that we're doing something great in this organization, and we're growing month after month, and we're building it on integrity and great product and great relationships. And it took that to go through that to get to here. And so that's what it took for me. I was almost forced into it.
Well, and we will totally get into that aspect of it because I absolutely am intrigued with that. But I got to ask, how tempting was it, or did you actually tell him, your boss who gave you that offer, like, yeah, I'm a pretty good worker. I've done this. Been around the block a couple of times. I got this down. It's really
Yeah.
hard not to give them the
Yeah.
backstory and go, really? Do you know who
Yeah.
I am?
Yeah, I know. It just sort of unfolded. I couldn't, because I felt like I'd be getting back into that place. Like at the time, remember, I believed in myself and I was very confident in what I could do, but I was still a little insecure. Like, am I washed up? Like, do I still have it? Like, I always believed, but I didn't know. And so I didn't want to pop off that way. And I said to myself, if I just go in and I do a really good job. One day I went into the warehouse, I opened up 3,000 boxes. He would tell you. 3,000 boxes just to make sure that a certain product was seedy, the glass was seedy and not clear. And I did that job to the best of my ability. Every day I went in, I was so present in the moment. I was so grateful for the opportunity that I just allowed that to unfold organically. And then it sort of came out after the fact when, he saw that I had a knack for selling, and, we started to build that relationship, and, we're best friends now. But yeah, it was sort of, I guess, maybe serendipitous. I don't know.
Well, and so it begs the question, because I know there's a lot of people that are chasing the money, right?
Yep.
And when somebody gets stuck in that chasing the money, it's really hard to see the signs on the road going, hey, not the right path. Hey, you're losing
Yeah.
stuff. Hey,
Yeah.
you just dropped that stuff out the back of your car. Do you know that?
Yeah.
So how do you help people to be able to recognize that as they're going through their, you know, corporate ladder climbing and or just business growth?
Yeah. I talk about it, and I talk about it with the people that I've cultivated within the organization today, to become from, bottom frontline employees to managers. I talk about it to the people that I spend time with when I go back and do service for people in recovery centers that think that money is the answer, that all I have to do is get out of here and get a job and I'm going to be okay. I talk about it to my son. I talk about it to the people that when I give seminars in business, or when I talk about that as being a very key aspect, that if you just land and figure out a way to let go and stay true and authentic to what it is that you really love to do, the money is the byproduct. It comes, and it may not come in the way that you think it's going to come, or the amount that you think it's going to come, but it will be sufficient enough to where, when you look at the offset of the passion versus the payoff, that you love coming to work every day, that you enjoy what you do, that you put your head on the pillow at night and you feel good about the business that you're doing for your customers on a daily basis and your employees. Whatever that byproduct is, and it's usually pretty good, it's enough, becomes enough. It's very tough to get out of that worldly calamity and belief that will bring happiness. I've been in very dark spots in my recovery where I've been sitting at the top of this company as a leader. And sometimes it could be a very lonely place when you're at the top. And I've been, in places where I was, very, either depressed or unmotivated at certain times. And I've had more money than I've ever had in my life. And that's just a proven fact. It's got to come from within. You have to be a good character. You have to exhibit good qualities as a human being, and land in your passion, and everything else is a byproduct.
Nice. So how do you help people to differentiate between being happy, like getting that actual sense of fulfillment, as opposed to, oh, this thing right now gives me endorphins, so I feel good right now, that must be happiness. And this whole idea of authenticity and who you are, because I find people have a really hard time kind of figuring out when they've passed that line of being egocentric and or whatever, the world can go and do its own thing and I'm just going to carry on because I'm happy. And they kind of, those lines get super blurry really fast. How do you keep them online to, okay, this is just success, this is not who I am?
Yes. it's a tough thing to discern. And I think that if, for me personally, I talk about the principles of what I believe makes people happy and what makes me happy versus what are things that create sort of temporary, how should I say, very fast track pleasure. And so at the end of the day, anything that we try to bring or pull in from the outside, whether it be food or money or sex or whatever it is, that shopping, that's all sort of lower power stuff. It's all physical stuff. It's all stuff that will create happiness for a period of time. So the bigger the shiny object, it might create more of a sense of happiness for people. But I found that the happiness that I generate when I'm the most healthy and I'm operating with the highest efficacy within my organization and within my people, and I know it because I get the feedback from them. Like, you've been really, this has been fantastic working with you. All great stuff is when I am constantly trying to seek opportunities to be out of myself and into others in the form of some sort of service. When I'm performing service, whether it be helping another alcoholic get sober or whether it be help mentoring one of my frontline pickers and sitting with them to get to know who they are and understanding where they want to go in the organization, when I'm thinking about somebody else, when I'm spending time talking about not my agenda, but their agenda, when I'm present and I'm able to drive by on the road and I see somebody on the top side of the road with a flat tire, if I'm stuck in self and I'm thinking about what it is I got to do to get where I want to go, I'll miss that opportunity to give assistance. When I can lean into that kind of stuff, and I tell people all the time, that's when I feel you build self-love, you build self-esteem, you do esteemable things, you build self-esteem. Those are the things that posture us up to build self-esteem. We don't build self-esteem by just buying things for us because we're just thinking about us. It's a complement. It's a balance, right? I love to go on vacation. I love to play golf. I love to do these things. None of those things can be the only source of happiness. They can be complements. It has to be balanced by, and my leadership style and my business. I am very much interested in spending time with everybody in my organization because I want to understand what it is they really want to do, what it is I can do to help them. And that in turn sort of helps me. It's almost like you want to be selfless, but it's selfish in a sense, because by doing that, I don't buy somebody lunch in the city when I'm in New York City. That's homeless. I sit and have lunch with them because I could throw money at a problem all day long, but I could sit and have lunch with them. And I feel good about that. That's how I could see the line.
So when it comes to that idea notion of, I also hear a lot of people say, okay, well, when I have the money, then I will pay more attention to the people in front of me. But I need to have my stability, kind of my financial stability has to be in place first before I can, waste my time, taking that time out for somebody else. What do you say to all of that kind of short-term, long-term?
I say to that, all I could do is share my experience, right? My experience is what I have. And I say to that, I had opportunities, like I had discussed, to really go chase and leave the self-growth process and leave the process of rebuilding, and which has gotten me to a place today where I look at things this way, where I want to be of service, to go chase it. And in my experience, I have listened to my inner voice. I've listened to that guiding principle of like, okay, I made a decision, or I need to do this in order to do that. And I just kind of try to practice the acceptance of I'm going to let the chips fall where they may. If I put one foot in front of the other and I do the right thing when no one's looking, then I believe that it will come back to me. And that's a tough thing to lean into. I get it, right? I did it, but I get it, right? Look, I think that you can exhibit, if you don't want to go all the way that way, I think you can exhibit a sense of balance. I think that there's a difference between having career goals and sort of an overall life strategy for yourself. And I think that everything is all encompassing. So maybe dedicating certain time. But I know this, when I take the time to do the right thing for other people, it just happens for me. I'm a big believer in it, and I'm living proof of it. Right. I mean, I didn't have to, I could have went back to banking. I just let the chips fall where they may. And my life I've rebuilt my life up in where I am now. I've just fantastic relationships with people because I've become a good person. I was built on arrogance and ego in that world. It was about what can I take from you? Now it's about what can I pack into the stream of life? What can I give you? And then it comes, right? It's without expectation, without unconditional, right? And that's I wound up where I am today, and and so I'm proof of it.
Nice. So talk to me about relationships, because a lot of people will also say, oh, I know Tony Robbins, I know, Dick Tracy, I know whatever. And they're name dropping in whatever crowd they're name dropping in. And they go, that's a relationship, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What to you is a real relationship? What's the difference between that and what you got going on now?
Yeah. So now relationships for me now are, sort of multifaceted. So, and I try to really incorporate it all. Most of my relationships in my personal life are completely unconditional relationships. They're people that are in my life that we look at each other. They don't want from me. I don't want from them. It's purely authentic. And that's what it is. My relationships in business are very similar. When I travel, obviously sales is in my passion. And now that I'm, sitting at the helm of this organization, I don't get to travel as much and sell, but I try to inspire the sales force that I have around the nation. And my senior director of sales, my national sales manager, I try to talk about building value in the relationship. And it's really just sitting down and listening. I think listening is like one of the highest spiritual exercises somebody can possibly do, is fully listening, like not what I'm going to say back when you're talking, right? And just sitting in front of a customer that I have developed relationships with across the decorative lighting industry at this point, and hearing what they have to say, listening to their struggles, listening to their pain points, also listening to the compliments that they have, right? All back and forth, and responding in a way. And that foundation sort of builds these unbreakable, no boundary sort of, back and forth like a ping pong match, very easy, with some very high level executives in this industry that I could talk to at night or throughout the day. And it's built on the foundation of showing up authentically and hearing what the person has to say. Dale Carnegie is one of my favorite, authors. And he says, you will make so many more friends in life if you just pay attention to what other people have to say, if you just listen and ask questions instead of trying to posture about what you have to offer, right? It's like pontificating, showing interest in other people.
I love it. So what would you say is your most fulfilling element of life now?
Oh, it's my passion to continue to grow as a leader within my business, my professional life, to continue to learn about how to manage people, how to cultivate people, and how to put together a great team. That's my most, putting the right people on the bus is my most important business aspect. Personally, it's my primary purpose in life is to be there for people that are struggling with alcohol or addiction, that need help getting sober, because somebody once gave it to me for free. And my primary purpose in my life, my real purpose, is to give that back on any occasion. I could be on a meeting with Amazon executives. I could be on a meeting with Wayfair executives. I could be on a meeting, with Home Depot. And I have, and that phone rings where somebody needs me, that they, have an issue that it's like DEFCON 5. I will stop the music. And I keep that forward, and I live by that. And it's just what's got me where I am today.
So I am super excited to hear about a Cinderella story that has come out of all of this.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, I land in this wonderful organization that started at about $1.6 million 8 years ago, and is now well into the $20 million range, with run rates of even higher in 8 years. And so I come on board to this organization. I see right off the bat the mission is a quality product at a fair price. I love the mission. I see that we're backing that up. And I decide, okay, well, now it's my job to build a team around this to get this to the next level. And so we start forging relationships. Decorative lighting industry is a very small industry, and it's a very relational business, which is what we talked about earlier. So I decide to, gather up the resources that we have, and with my owner, and I say, okay, we're going to start driving some e-commerce. We're going to start driving some brick and mortar showrooms. We're going to start driving different market sectors. And as we're starting to build people on the team, I'm starting to realize as I'm traveling that I'm meeting with these small business owners before we got blown up with e-commerce. And I'm sitting in front of people and I'm realizing that compared at the time, compared to some of the other bigger manufacturers, there was no customer centric value. There was no desire from other companies to build value in. And I noticed that right from jump, which is very contradictory to the Wall Street world. And I'm starting to understand that these people are passionate about what they do. And I'm learning the product and I'm learning. And I realized that lighting is actually something that, and I've learned much more since then, and I believe it wholeheartedly at the visceral level, that lighting is something that really changes the mood and feel of people's entire lives while they're at home, which is where they spend, where they feel safe. And again, coming from a very shallow world, I didn't really get that at first. And I realized that very quickly. And I realized, hey, we're in a business, we're in an industry here where I can change the lives of many people when they're relaxing in their homes. And it's very important that not only because we don't sell directly to the end user, we sell to the retailers that sell to the end user, right? So, Wayfair, Home Depot, Amazon, Ferguson, all these different companies, and then over 1,000 small mom and pop showrooms all over the nation, where these people are just small retailers selling lighting. And we start to build the organization around customer centric value, about building in value adds for these retailers that give them a little bit of an edge on their profitability, or a little bit of an edge on their ability to deliver the fixture faster to their customer, or a little bit of an edge on if something goes wrong, we're going to replace it right away. Those kinds of things is what we started to build there to the organization. And then it started to grow exponentially, and it hasn't stopped, to be honest with you, which is for the grace of God. We just continue to turn miracles. And so I built up we're building up the organization infrastructurally. We're putting on national sales managers, marketing people. We build up our entire pick pack warehouse we moved to over 100,000 square feet. And we're building this organization as we're growing. And the feedback is constant feedback is, hey, Innovations is really backing up what they're saying they're going to back up. And we're producing more and more quality lighting in this sort of farmhouse industrial look. And most of our products are customizable. So you can basically pick whatever finish you want, whatever glass you want, marry it together, and it comes with shipped same day. And so all these little things that we did that built in our sort of what we call our customer centric value ads that we send out are really what built the relationships that make people want to do business with us. It's like we don't just solve a problem, we don't just fill a void, we create a situation where we want to. And then we started to lean into the customer service side, where we really dumped a lot of money and a lot of energy and a lot of time and a lot of training in the customer service department of our organization, where whenever somebody has a problem, whenever somebody has an issue, we solve it. And so those things put together, it doesn't even really have to do much with the product. If the product is there, it's really all the stuff around it. And those are the things that matter in this industry that don't necessarily matter in my previous industry. That's where I've sort of been sort of sparked and engaged in what I do every day.
I love it. And I beg to differ on that. I think it has a huge impact on distributors, because a lot of them, when I talk to the CEOs that run these companies, in the end, they think they're in competition with their distributors, because if their distributors aren't doing the thing, then they got to go, well, if we're going to make money, we got to go out and do the thing. It's like, no, you got to take care of your distributors. That's the whole point. Go and listen to them and figure out what is it that they're missing, that they're not selling your thing harder, faster, because they want to. They wouldn't have signed up with you in the first place if there wasn't that desire to do it. They saw a spark there, but you're just not living up to their expectations. And the only way you can do that is to create that relationship that you're talking about and set your ego aside and go, okay, maybe they know something about business and the end consumer that I don't know, that I'm not seeing.
I couldn't agree with you more. And that's the part we talked about in terms of listening. And I heard what their pain points were with other people, right? And I said, well, we're going to be different. My job as a president is to think about 3 and 5 and 7 years down the road, and how are we going to be relevant? How are we going to be proprietary? How are we going to sustain, right? And how are we going to stay out in front of it? So when I'm hearing things, that they're struggling with, and I can go back and, put the pen to paper and meet with my team and collaborate on how can we be better, That's where we do. So when people are shipping in 7 days, we're shipping in the same day. When people are not answering the phone, when retailers have an on-the-spot question with their customer, we're answering the phone. Not only do we answer the phone, we're going to put a live chat in place, right? So that you can just scan a phone and get an answer right away. All of these things, when there's problems, especially many people want to sort of hide when there's problems with the product they sell. We want to be out front facing on it. Like, you have a problem, something was wrong, something was missing, we ship it same day, and we live and die by that. We stay true to those things. And while there's no direct way to gauge ROI on that, there is a very sort of cumbersome approach to looking at how your business is growing in terms of profitability, in terms of top line revenue, and in terms of real customer count, conversions that you can tie that back to. And then diving into areas where we're trying to gather information from the people, the very people that are buying our product, surveys and things, and listening to them. I mean, I do surveys a couple of times a year that's gathered by my marketing team, and I read every single one of them. I've never not read a survey from a customer. We sell to over 1,000 people across the nation in brick and mortar, and we sell to massive e-commerce companies, from Wayfair to Home Depot to Lowe's to Overstock to Build.com. And anytime we do a survey, I read it and I pivot to what the best of my ability that I can.
I love it. Because I think this whole conversation leans into as well is most people think that when a consumer has a problem, that it's a problem. I was like, no, they're really excited about the thing they just bought. Everybody wants to buy something and have it, be an exciting moment. And oftentimes when things don't go right, that leads to the story. And then everybody wants the good story or the good ending, right? They all want the Cinderella ending of, and how did you solve my problem? There's nothing wrong with having problems. That is the journey. That's the fun part. That's why we're here. And if you can do the personal development so that you're not afraid of people having a problem and you get to come in and be the hero and save the day, it becomes that story that they tell. And I think that's how you create the customer loyalty, which then has the long tail sales to it of they're the ones talking about you because they love the experience so much.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, do you want to win the battle, and lose the war? Okay, so we ship a wrong product by mistake, or the customer doesn't like a product and an electrician installs the product. They come home from work and they see it's installed and they don't like it. Right. And so, or it's the wrong product and they email in and say, we don't want this product, or it was the wrong product. Would you mind covering the electrician fee so that I can, he installed it while I was at work and I'll buy another fixture. Some people will say, well, no, that's your problem, and you win the battle, but you lose the war. Because is that person really going to write a great review? Are they really going to come back to your organization, even if they like your light or whatever product it is you're selling? For us, it's about, let's just solve the problem and let's solve it fast. And we'll let the chips fall where they may, or whatever that means down the road, whether it's a rebuy, whether it's a review, whether it's a referral, whatever it is. And we believe in that at the very core here. And that just multiplies across different platforms of service that we can offer. That's what's been, I think, the secret sauce to the exponential growth of the organization. Aside from really good relationships and great product, that really is what it boils down to. So we're the only manufacturer in 2024 that's grown month over month and year over year, all the way through this year. We're the only ones in the industry. And I believe it's because we're gobbling up share primarily because of exactly what we're talking about now.
I love it. So from distributors to consumers, everybody's going to want to go and check you out and see how you run your business, at least from the outside perspective. How do they get a hold of the lighting company? How do they go and check things out?
Yeah. So there's, depending upon, we sell in all states across the nation. There's lighting showrooms, that are located in your state. We sell all over online, Wayfair, Amazon, Build, whatever. We talked about all of that, Home Depot. You can search Innovations Lighting. Also on our website, innovationslighting.com. But again, we don't sell to the end user. So, you can find out information on dealer location on the website. You could search our products and see that as well. And that is pretty much, the way to find us. We are a manufacturer that really supports the actual retailer themselves. So we don't, a lot of manufacturers move in directions like, oh, well, let me try to capitalize on another market. And I don't bash them for it, but we stay true to whether it's selling to designers directly or selling to builders directly, to sort of skip that that chain of supply there. And so we kind of stay true to that. It's another one of the ways that we, kind of build the relationships with our retailers. We stay loyal to them. So lighting showrooms, electrical distributors, plumbing distributors, or online.
Beautiful. I love it. So we will, of course, have all of Greg's links in the show notes. So go ahead and scroll down, click on the links, open up a new browser because we're not done yet. So Greg, I get to ask you, and you've given us a lot of the story, and a lot of it was in sales, and I'm thinking working for other people. At what point in life did you know that you were especially kind of crazy enough to think that you could become an entrepreneur?
That's so kind of crazy. I know I started, like, my first business, I was entrepreneurial, and then I built my mortgage business, I was entrepreneurial. And I just think that the craziness kind of led me down to a path of realizing that I can do this, but I can do this in a way that could be meaningful and sustainable and not just transactional.
Nice.
And that's what I think is the difference today in my life as a business leader, as opposed to, in the past. It's more of a bond play. It's not a stock play. It's long term.
Love it. So you've been absolutely phenomenal. Any last words for our peeps?
Yeah. Just, from a business standpoint, stay true, stay authentic, stay listen to, the inner voice that guides you is what it is that's right and what's wrong. And, let the chips fall where they may there. Chase the passion, not the money. Money will come as a byproduct. From a personal growth standpoint, just do the right thing when nobody's looking. And I'm living proof that the rest will fall into place and good things will happen.
Awesome. Great. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. And I know how valuable it is.
Thank you.
Awesome. Peeps, this is Michelle Nedelec. Thank you for being here with us today. Be sure to subscribe to the show and share it with your friends. We love helping entrepreneurs grow.
Are you running a business over 7 figures but still struggling with technology headaches? Pay attention, you do not want to miss this offer. This podcast episode is brought to you by Awareness Strategies, who is offering a custom-built digital adoption roadmap for anyone running a business over 7 figures who's wanting to grow their business in the next 5 years. And it's not just a roadmap, they offer full implementation as well if that scares the out of you. Check out awarenessstrategies.com/roadmap for more details today. The link's in the show's notes. Don't regret not doing this. Do it now. That's awarenessstrategies.com/roadmap.